Hey there, I'm Tyler and welcome back. Today I'm going to show you how to make these shaker style doors, although they're kind of a faux shaker style door with only a couple tools. You only need a few tools to make these doors. They are assembled with pocket joints. We use a table saw to cut the rabbet into the back to hold the panel instead of using a router with an expensive style router bit. We have done a couple different shaker style doors on this channel before. Cope and stick, rail and style, shaker, whatever you want to call them. And the complaint I've always gotten in those videos is, hey, let's do something without all of those tools. So today we're gonna try to do a little bit simpler style shaker door. You're gonna need some poplar, which you can buy from the store, ready to go at 3/4 of an inch, surfaced on 4 sides. Then you'll need some hardboard, 1/4 inch plywood for the panel that goes inside. And we're gonna try to do this with the table saw, the miter saw, and a pocket hole jig, and you should be good to go. So I got my cut list right here. Our first stop is going to be over at the miter saw, where we are going to cut things down to the proper length that we need for our rails and stiles. And then we will head over here and cut them to the 2-inch width we need on the table saw. And then we need to put a rabbet in the back of them as well to accept the panel. So I just moved over to the table saw to cut our rails and stiles down to the 2 inches that we need, and I noticed that I wasn't getting a snug fit up against the fence. And taking a closer look at the wood, it is because we have these burrs from the cutting over at the miter saw. So what I'm going to do is use a sanding block to knock those down, make sure we get a snug fit up against the fence. And that'll make sure that we don't cut any of these a little bit wonky, leaving us with an unsquare door. Let's imagine we're looking at the back of the door right now. We need to cut a rabbet in here so that the panel sits flush with the back and allows the door to close properly. We want to recess that 1/2 inch into the wood, and we'll be able to put glue and a little nail in there to hold everything in place. On the horizontal board, we'll be able to cut all the way through, but on the vertical boards, we don't want to cut all the way through, otherwise we will see that cutout on the top and bottom. So what we're going to do is put marks on the board and on the fence to where we want to stop. So basically we'll have a radius like this from the saw blade, and we can later clean this up with a chisel. So I have set the blade at the 1/2 inch depth that we want to give us the rabbet in the back of the board. Now we have a 3/4 inch board, so if you set your table saw to 5/8 of an inch and you have an 1/8 inch blade on your table saw, that'll give you the perfect rabbet in the back as long as you have an 1/8 inch hardboard. If you have 1/4 inch, you'll have to do 2 cuts to get the proper rabbet in the back. So again, for the horizontal boards, we'll be able to run them right through and we are good to go. For the vertical boards, we're going to want to stop our cut right about here. We can go a little bit further so we don't have to chisel out as much, but we certainly want to make sure the blade does not poke out at the end. So you can see I have marks here from doing this for a previous project. So let's say we want to go right about here. We will strike a line, and that is where we want to start the board so that the blade doesn't poke through the end. And then we will run it down, and we want to stop the board so the same thing doesn't happen on the other side. So again, I'll go right about here, and I will make a mark. I do want to bring up one word of caution when you're making a cut like that. You want to make sure you go very slow and make sure you have your hand firmly planted somewhere away from the blade, but in a way that if you do lose this board, your hand doesn't get pulled into the blade. So you saw how I had my hand on the fence up here and then back here out of the way, and I was standing to the side of the blade so that if I did lose control of this, it would hit the back wall and not impale me. Our joinery method for these shaker doors is going to be pocket holes. We want to make sure all of our horizontal boards have 2 pocket holes in it to accept 2 1 1/4 coarse pocket screws. There are all sorts of different pocket hole jigs on the market. You could certainly do it with a small guy like this. It's just going to take you a little bit of time. If you have something like this, it will take you less time and be a little bit quicker. And then in the back there, I actually have a Craig Foreman, which would be even faster, but is a more expensive tool to get into. So there are many ways to skin the cat. So we're going to use one of these Craig Automax clamps to clamp this firmly down to the table to make sure it doesn't shift at all, and then use 2 1 1/4 inch coarse pocket screws. We're going to put a little glue in there as well to make our butt joints. So you remember when we made those rabbets on the table saw before, you can see right here where we do need to notch out just a little bit using a chisel to allow our back panels, which we'll cut in a second, to go into place. Thank you for your concern. Well, that right there is your completed shaker door with very minimal tools. At this point, you can sand, you want to apply a finish. If you're going to install these, you'll probably need to drill some holes in the back for some Euro style hinges, but we will get to that. But you're done with the fabrication, whether you have a drum sander, random orbit sander, hand sander to get these finished up, and whatever kind of finish you want to put on there, hand brushing or rolling, fantastic. Obviously our doors are done. You can put them on with whatever style hinges you want. You could have finished them however you wanted. I finished mine with a tinted polyurethane. And now I'm going to be adding some soft close Euro style hinges. And I have this jig here from Craig that makes it really easy to align them all consistently. Well, I think those turned out fantastic. You may have seen me blabbing to myself in the video, and that is because I actually built a portion of these doors on live stream on a second channel, DIYTyler 2. There's a link to that down in the description below if you would like to join in on the fun. I certainly hope this helps some of you out and that you're able to make shaker style doors of any different flavor and style. You just gotta take the measurement of your cabinet, make sure you leave room for a nice gap, and you can use the same building style as we showed you today. If it did help you out, please hammer that thumbs up button as it helps us out a ton and gets this video in front of more eyes. I'm DIYTyler, and you guys have a good one.